Welcome to an episode of the Anyone But Cam Offseason podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Frankie, and sitting across the internet from me is Cam. Cam, how are you doing?
Oof, I think I've made this at least semi-well documented the last couple days that I've been very hyped about everything going on NFL related.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a good new league year for me so far. How about you, Frankie?
Well, that makes one of us. Although we have a couple signings recently from the Steelers, I'm like okay to excited with, but we've been, Steelers have been getting beat up recently, and free agency wise with Bell and Brown and all that nonsense. But we did manage to unload Mr. Soft Hands onto your team, so congrats to that. Still, how you feel? Just right at the top, how you feeling about Mr. Jesse James as your guys' new stud tight end?
All right. I guess I'll just go into the whole Lions thing right now.
Okay.
Because I have
Yeah.
a little spiel thought about. So Jesse James, to start off with, he is the former Steelers' number 2 tight end. No one can deny that he's the second best one on their team. But he is now the best tight end on the Lions roster. So, maybe we didn't get someone great, but at least now we aren't just handcuffed to have to draft a tight end early,
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the theme with all of our picks. Our biggest holes were edge, cornerback, tight end, and wide receiver. And we signed one of each of those this offseason. So at least now, like in the draft, we can be more of a best player available kind of plan rather than just like these are holes that we need to fill.
Who have you
So,
guys signed for wide receiver?
Danny Amendola.
Oh, that's right. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
So it's nothing special. And obviously, we are going to need a replacement either this year or next year. Probably, well, like definitely something this year. But now we can draft someone that's more doesn't need to start right away. And same with tight end. We can get someone that's more just they can spend 1 or 2 years behind Jesse James, and then I know that doesn't sound great, but it's better than just forcing them to start right away. Yeah. So I'm super hyped about it because now I have absolutely no idea where the Lions are going to go with the first round of the draft.
Yeah, interesting. I guess I'll go into a little bit of Steelers talk then, because I think you summed up Alliance pretty well there. Big narratives for over a year now with Bell, where he's going to go. Eventually landed in Jets, getting paid less than the Steelers would have offered him, but more guaranteed, which is what I was actually wanting. Congrats, whatever, dude. Thank you. Next, on to AB. Signs for Oakland. I don't care at this point. It's congrats, whatever. Have your money and enjoy not making the playoffs with Gruden. Wish you the best. But as his replacement, we signed Dante Moncrief. Can you guys believe that we signed Dante Moncrief, who did almost nothing with Andrew Luck as his quarterback, and did even less with Blake Bortles as his quarterback? Imagine what he can do with Big Ben as his quarterback. Wow. At least he's versatile. Like, at least he can be both the X and the slot. Okay.
He's got that dope celebration where he slaps the base at least for his 2 touchdowns he'll catch this year.
Yeah, and man, I don't know what we're doing with our receivers. Like, the Steelers have always been a team where you just develop receivers through the draft. I don't really understand this signing, but it's whatever. It's like a patch fix, I think. Kind of like with Jesse James on Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We also signed Steven Nelson, which is the most excited I am about any signing, because at least in my eyes, he was easily the second best defender on Kansas City last season. And I mean, it doesn't say much. That defense was terrible. But it's like him, Eric Berry, obviously number 1, and then Steven Nelson. I'm glad we got him. Should be helping out with a defensive back core that struggled a lot early in the season and has struggled a lot over the last 5 or so years, but has gotten better with the acquisitions of Joe Hayden and now Steven Nelson. So I'm excited for that for sure. Other than that, the Steelers have been a little quiet overall with their acquisitions. I mean, they've been getting picks. Like, we traded away Marcus Gilbert for a 5th round pick or 6th round to Arizona, and getting picks from a 3rd and a 5th from Oakland for AB and all that. So they're definitely looking to the draft pretty heavily this year. hopefully just keep bolstering that defense because that's our biggest blind spot, I guess. Our biggest weak spot. Um, yeah, other than that, the Steelers haven't been super exciting for agency wise. Other than players just burning us for greener pastures, I guess.
Where do you hope the Steelers go in the draft right now with their early round picks?
I would say like our well, I don't, at least in my opinion, our biggest like spot that we need most help with is probably our linebacker core right now.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like having a true nickel would be really nice. I mean, obviously we had Shazier, and ever since that,
Yeah.
we technically still have Shazier. We just paid him his contract again, or however that works. But uh, yeah, it's a spot that like we had. It's more of an aging core. Like I love Vince Williams. I think he's awesome. Great personality wise, really good, really good locker room guy, but he's not the fastest guy out there. He's a hard hitter, but he's not exactly the fastest. And with the defense that we run, he's often put out into coverage, which is like how we get, which is like one of the reasons why the Patriots are usually able to cut us up by just throwing the ball in the middle of the field and just having our old ass slow linebackers try and catch up. But we have made improvements like with Tuitt, and with Stephon Tuitt's rise to be a much better player. John Bostic had a really good season last year, and we re-signed Anthony Chiquillo, who's developing. I don't really know how good I feel about him. I think he's like fine. I really like to see them continue to go, linebacker, and then you can always add more DBs. We've like our last two DB picks have basically been busts, which is why I've been in this weird DB hole for like I don't know half a decade. But I don't know. I guess just keep trying. You can't give up, right? That's why we signed Steven Nelson because he's a proven commodity. But yeah, that's probably the direction. I just wanted to keep going defense. And then also, I guess, receiver. But I don't know who I really like out of this draft class so far. Some people have been linking DK Metcalf as somebody that the Steelers could maybe go to. I don't know how he falls that far in the first round.
Yeah, I don't
and if we
see that.
draft him in the first round, would literally scream. I'd be so angry.
Why?
Because he's just like he's like so incredibly raw. Okay, so like he had good combine numbers, right? Good 40, good vert and bench. I think his bench was pretty good. But
No, his bench is the best in the combine for wide
yeah,
receivers.
but he was like top. He was like bottom 5 percentile in the 3-cone drill, which is like abysmal.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of guy we need. Like Juju's biggest problem, like his biggest weak spot as a receiver is his route running ability. He's just not the most like precise route runner, which just means he just doesn't get as open. But he has a really good contested catch rate, and he's like he has really good speed too, in good hands obviously. But that was the AB's specialty. He was just like he was by far like, well, I don't know if by far, but every like year over the past like 5 years, he's been one of the best route runners in the league. It's just like every play, you just wonder how AB gets open so often, and it's like how are they not double teaming him? It's like they are. It's just that he's an amazing route runner and has these like fakes and these whiffs that are so good. So just like having somebody that's that raw when all we have is Juju, and I love Juju, but he's not Antonio Brown. So it's like I'd like someone who's more of a complete receiver already, somebody who, yeah, just isn't as raw as DK Metcalf. I don't know. I think he's so overhyped.
Tell that to him when he carries me to the fantasy championship next year. Unless Justin and Logan draft him in the first round of the draft, like they've said they're going to do.
I hope they do.
Yeah, but it makes sense because isn't James Washington kind of the same thing, where he's like super athletic and like raw?
Yeah, he's raw, and he's raw and doesn't even have that good of hands. So
Yeah.
he's kind of like a Marcus Whedon type. I guess we just really like that type. Just good route runner, a little raw, but athletic. Just has no hands. So, yeah.
All right. Let's get into some other free agency stuff that's been going on. How about that?
Okay, well, we have like a whole sheet here we can just like run down that we did predictions on. Let's just start at the top here. We both predicted Jadeveon Clowney would get the tag. That was obvious. He did get the tag. Staying on Houston. One thing I want to talk about with that, because Houston lost a defensive player. They lost Honey Badger, who did, by his own accord, was on a 1-year prove-it deal with
Mm-hmm.
them. He ends up getting moved to Kansas City, which I don't know if it surprised me, but I just didn't necessarily see that coming. Because I was like, well, I don't really see why they would do that. They already have in that nickel spot, like they have Eric Berry who can do really well, and then they just released Eric Berry. So I was like, huh, well, all right, I guess that makes sense. Eric Berry is, in my opinion, probably I don't know. I don't know if he's the best safety in the league, but he's definitely up there, top 2 or 3 for sure. But he's just been dealing. He's had injury problems his whole career. Like his most recent one, I think, is an Achilles injury, which is a really rough one to come back from, usually. Um, and I don't know. There's a lot. I feel like there's a lot of teams that could be going after him. The main teams that are most linked to him as landing spots are San Francisco and Dallas. It's the 2 teams that went after Earl Thomas, who ended up signing with the Ravens, which I'm not excited about at all. I'm not excited to see him twice a year. But anyways, Eric Berry is probably the most interesting free agent still left on the market, at least in my opinion. I think he's probably gonna end up in Dallas. Did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was kind of just thinking Washington because they did get what's his face in the Giants. I forget his name right now. Landon Collins.
Oh yeah, Landon Collins.
They signed him to that ridiculous deal. But he's a strong safety, so they still need a free safety because they lost Ha Clinton Dix.
Yeah.
And who knows if Washington's trying to tank or win or do whatever right now. It really makes no sense. So I just think that they could go after a good but old and injury-prone player, kind of like Alex Smith, and then just kind of stay in that purgatory that they like to hang out in.
Yeah, just enough wins so Jay Gruden can keep his job, but not enough to be relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, the next name here we got is Trey Flowers, the defensive end for New England, the guy I thought they wouldn't let go. You thought better of it, though, and you predicted Detroit, your own team, and he ended up in Detroit. How about that?
So this was on Tuesday morning, I think. No, this was Monday morning when all this was happening, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And my earliest class got canceled, so I didn't have class till noon. And I was just sitting downstairs on the couch, just refreshing Twitter and Reddit all morning. And when I saw this happen, I got so excited. Oh my god. And I don't know. It's going to be super hype because the Lions, all right, they're paying him like $500,000 more per year than we just played Ziggy Ansah last year on the franchise tag. So it's not like we're really losing anything in cap space, and he's just so much of a better player. And I know all the people are like, oh, New England people go to other teams and then suck because New England knows how to use them. But I mean, we have Matt Patricia who's used Trey Flowers before, and this is probably Trey Flowers' best defensive line he's ever been on. Because the Lions have 3 of the top 6 interior defensive linemen in the NFC North, according to PFF. And I'm super hyped. It's going to be great.
Yeah. I think you guys will. That was a big narrative early in the season last year was that how bad the Detroit's run defense was, which you can generally chalk up to how much they can dominate the line, and with the the signing of Snacks and now Flowers, it's shaping up to be really, really something to look for this next season.
Yeah, we call it the Lions Den.
Is that what they're calling it? I feel like that's just what you would call your home stadium, right? Or...
No, it's just you can't run into the Lions Den. Get got.
That's something I think to watch for fantasy next season. I don't know if you want to be. I think that's got to be something you need to look out for. Like when you're going up against the Rams last season, it's like, do I really want to put my running back who's going up against Sue and Aaron Donald? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, Detroit was the best run defense after they got Snacks last year, and now Trey Flowers is pretty well known for being better at run stopping than rushing the passer, to be honest. Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be even worse. It's great.
Yeah. Alrighty, moving on here. We got Trent Brown, another New England player, an offensive tackle here. You predicted Texans. I predicted Miami. I think they were both good spots. Oakland ends up with him. I don't have a whole lot to say here, but good for Oakland. At least that's a smart signing. I can't say the same for a lot of the other stuff Oakland's doing, but at least it makes sense to me.
Yeah, this is the second year in a row that a New England offensive tackle has gone to free agency and been the highest paid tackle in that free agency after Nate Soldier last season.
Yeah.
Oakland may have overpaid, but like they're gonna have to pay a lot of money to get people to come to their team, and I really don't get why the Texans or Miami wouldn't sign him because they need offensive line help so bad.
Yeah. I'm not really sure what Miami's doing, but I guess we'll get to that in a bit. Next up, one of the bigger narratives: Nick Foles, Super Bowl MVP. Nick Foles, quarterback that we both predicted Washington, because the narrative for a long time had been Jacksonville, but then we weren't super sure if they're going to be able to because of cap space reasons. Ended up cutting Blake the Snake, saving some cap there and making room for him to become the for sure starter. Yeah, good for Nick Foles. I really don't know how good the Jags are going to be this next season, just because I feel like there's so many question marks on that defense and what happened to them last season, and also there's always the question of if their running backs are going to come in 25 pounds overweight or not to training camp. But I'm glad for Nick Foles to be getting a starting job when he can at least start to try and show what he's made of during the regular season for like more than like 5 games at a time.
All right. I just want to take a second to talk about how dysfunctional the Jags have been recently. Okay?
Yeah.
They traded a 5th-round pick for Carlos Hyde in the middle of the season, who they then cut. So they just threw away a 5th-round pick pretty much.
Yeah.
They drafted Leonard Fournette 4th overall, ahead of Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes, and we're committing to Blake Bortles, and now they've cut him like 2 years later. They signed Nick Foles, and they were pretty much the only team that was actually bidding against Nick Foles. And a report came out that they paid him more money than they really needed to in order to send a message to the locker room that he is their guy.
I did hear that, yeah.
Like, I feel like they just have no long-term vision going on, or at least they're changing it every single year. And it's just, like, they have a lot of talent on that team, but I don't know if they're actually going to be able to do anything with it.
Especially in the with their AFC South, right, with the Colts and Texans in that division, like, and Tennessee as well. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Like, I don't actually hate the signing him for more than they needed to send a message necessarily. I mean, quarterbacks in general, like in the league, are pretty underpaid overall. When you look at like what Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, and even Ben. I mean, Ben's gonna get a raise soon, but you look at some of the top talents. Cousins not they talk about Cousins, but like some of the actual top talent in the league, generally, if you look at them as opposed to other players, they are generally underpaid. So I don't hate that with Foles, but I feel like the message is sent with cutting of Blake by itself. So I don't know.
Yeah, I just feel like Jags haven't been handling themselves well recently.
Yeah, that's no debate about that.
Kind of classic Jags move right there.
Yeah. Alrighty, another quarterback on the market, Teddy Bridgewater. It's looking like he's going to stay in New Orleans, but he did have a meeting with Miami, I think, yesterday. But the news is that it pretty much didn't go anywhere. But he's also unsure of if he wants to stay in New Orleans because he doesn't know, because I think he wants to play for Sean Payton, but this could be Sean Payton's last year as a coach. Who really knows? It seems like every year there's talk about him retiring. But I think it's pretty safe to say he's probably going to stay in New Orleans. We both predicted either that or the Jags, and the Jags ended up signing Nick Foles for the money. Yeah, I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater is a starter, and so I think this is probably the best move for him. But, yeah, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, another thing, we talked about how Miami has pretty much no offensive line.
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater does have, some scary injury history to be concerned about. So if he's not getting paid that much more than staying in New Orleans, I don't think there's a good reason for him to want to switch over there.
Yeah.
And, risk getting injured.
Agreed. Alrighty, moving on here. We talked about it a little bit. We got Lev Bell ended up signing with the Jets. That was the narrative for a long time. All right, I did read some interesting things that one of the reasons he ended up signing with the Jets was not only the money, but because of his adoration for Curtis Martin, also one of my favorite running backs out of the University of Pittsburgh. But yeah, he's an absolute legend of the game. And they had Curtis Martin was a bit more of a bruiser than Lev Bell was, but they were also both known for their jukes and their drop steps. So I'm much more angry at Antonio Brown right now than I am at Lev Bell, just because he's just been like out of my mind for so long, and I'm like somewhat glad he's like at least back in football. I'd like to see him do well, um, but yeah, I don't know. There's some interesting things. I wonder how. I guess we can talk about this more, but I wonder, the Jets are making a lot of moves, and some people, I was talking to Jake yesterday, and we were talking about like how good the Jets are, and if the Jets have a chance to make the playoff this upcoming year, and it's just, at least to me, the AFC East is the New England Patriots division until like I'm proven wrong.
Yeah,
Right?
100%.
Yeah, and I don't super see. I get that Josh Allen could have a good sophomore year, and I do think he is going to have a good sophomore year, but I don't think the Bills are necessarily a contender. I think that Miami is the farthest thing from a contender. Um, but Sam Darnold, you get Lev Bell, you have some other signings too, some wide receivers as well. I don't know. I think the Jets can actually do something this next year, and maybe save their GM's job, that's been in jeopardy for at least 3 years now. But anyways, I'm kind of rambling here. I'm glad Le'Veon Bell got a job, and I'm excited to see him back on the field because he's probably my favorite player in the league to actually watch play football.
Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting because a lot of times, we have players that are considered like either best in the league at their time or up there with the all-time greats, which Le'Veon Bell obviously has been best in the league for a while, but it'll be interesting to see if he can keep that up with the Jets or if he's more of a product of that Steelers offensive line, which has always been like something holding him back from being considered, one of the greats.
Mm.
So like I think it's interesting that this is one of the few opportunities we actually get to see someone playing with a bunch of different, or like a different team to kind of have a different viewpoint on them.
Yeah, for sure.
But unfortunately for him, the Jets running backs coach is Jim Bob Cooter, formerly of the Lions. So we all know how good their running backs have been with him. So I don't know how confident I'm feeling for him, but I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I'm trying to remember who's the Lions running back. Who's the pass catching running back for the Lions out for like
Theo Riddick.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of is this Theo situation. I mean, like if he knows how to use Theo Riddick to be at least like an impact player through the air. I mean, that's kind of what Le'Veon did in Pittsburgh.
That is true.
No.
I have no idea how Adam Gase is going to do with the Jets. So, like, even if they have a lot of talent, I could see them just imploding.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty, moving on to another running back here, Mark Ingram. Someone I thought there was no way he was getting. He was moving out of New Orleans. I didn't see a reason why he would move out of New Orleans. Eventually, we got our answer, but he ends up with the Ravens. It's just, I have so many questions here. I don't really get it. Like, okay, so like I know that they said that John Harbaugh said that Gus Edwards is their guy. And I guess adding another guy, Mark Ingram, isn't bad. I mean, who else do they even have for running back that's even competent back there? Do they still have Buck Allen on
They
the
do
team?
still have Buck Allen.
Yeah, and he's not much of a bruiser. He's more of a get in space kind of guy. So I guess that kind of makes sense. I'm not excited to play him either. All these AFC North teams getting better. I'm not for it.
Yeah, there was a question on the NFL podcast that was, other than the Bengals, which AFC North team do you think is most likely to not reach 10 wins or something like that? Maybe it was 9 wins. And it's actually a pretty good question.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously the Browns have been the one that's do it recently, but they look pretty strong right now. And the Steelers always above that kind of 9-10 win mark, but they've lost a lot of talent recently. And then the Baltimore Ravens always have a good defense, and they've got a couple new weapons. But honestly, I feel like it'd probably be them, just because the Chargers showed us that you could like figure out their offense kind of in the playoffs last year and kind of stop them from being able to do anything. So if they don't make it more modernized, then I don't know what's going to happen with them.
Yeah, so I was going to say, like, I feel like now that teams actually have game film on Lamar Jackson, it's going to be easier and easier to stop him.
Yeah.
Because he was just such a new figure. Like, we hadn't seen a quarterback that was able to run like that, maybe ever in the NFL. Like, I'm not a historian, but like the way they were running that offense was like, it reminded me of like an even more run heavy Michael Vick offense.
Yeah.
maybe even like a Vince Young, but Vince Young didn't have enough time to really, I don't know, establish that. But yeah, definitely interesting to see that. Um,
But an interesting subplot of this Mark Ingram signing
mm-hmm.
is the Saints, they signed Elmat, but he's no
They
Mark
did.
Ingram. So that backfield is mostly Alvin Kamara's boys.
I guess I didn't see how much Latavius Murray signed for him. It must have been like a good bit less than Mark Ingram, yeah?
Alright, so here's what I think happened. I think Mark Ingram was like trying to test free agency and they thought he was gonna make a lot more money than he did with the Ravens. And that meant that the Saints were like, oh, we're not gonna be able to re-sign you, so they just signed Elmat. And then once Mark Ingram realized that he like couldn't make as much money as he thought, he signed for like $1 million or $1.5 million more than Elmat per year. So not really that much. I don't know if you have the numbers.
1 second.
All right, we'll let our producer look them up.
I have that Elmat signed for 4 years, 14.4 mil.
Okay, so that's like 3.5 per year.
Mark Ingram 3 years, 15 mil, 5 a year.
Yeah, so that's $1.5 million more a year.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I feel like the Saints probably would have ponied up for that if they thought that that's all it would have costed.
Yeah. Elmat's not a bad signing, but I think, as you said, definitely a downgrade overall. But I don't know. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah,
I think they'll be just fine. Speaking of running backs, Tevin Coleman of the Atlanta Falcons, a big narrative going into the season was it was going to be a contract year for him, and then Devontae Freeman gets injured pretty early on into the season. It's like, oh, it's time for Tevin Coleman show. Didn't show a whole lot. Was a bum for my fantasy team the entire season, outside of like 2 or 3 games. You said Bills, I said KC. I think those both made sense. Ended up in San Francisco. I think it also makes sense. Only signs for, I think, what was it? It was like 2 years, 10 mil. I think it's only
something
5
like that,
mil.
yeah.
Yeah, like 5 mil a year. The whole Le'Veon Bell holding out to make these like playmake type players like get more money. It's not working out. But I like the signing from San Francisco. If anything, it's just a bit underwhelming and not super headline grabbing, I guess. But it would have been if Tevin Coleman had shown a bit more last season.
Yeah, the one person that I follow had Tevin Coleman ranked as a better like free agent option than Le'Veon Bell, as just a function of like him being not that much less talented but going to be a lot cheaper. But I guess the NFL really didn't feel the same way because he's kind of seemed like an afterthought after being what I thought was like the second best running back available.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Last running back I think away with the page here, C.J. Anderson, still not signed to a team. Apparently he's received no offers from any other team, and hasn't really talked to the Rams either about a deal. So I guess assuming he's either just going to be cut or be re-signed to be a Raven. I'm sorry, a Raven, a Ram. But yeah, I guess we'd move on there.
Wait, real quick.
Oh, go on.
Adrian Peterson re-signed with the Washington Redskins.
He did.
C.J. Anderson still doesn't have a contract. It's a little wild to me.
You think it's wild? I think Adrian Peterson's a much better running back than C.J. Anderson.
Like this year's old Adrian Peterson?
Yeah, Adrian Peterson did really well last season.
I mean, so did C.J. Anderson. I don't know.
And I think C.J. Anderson only played in like 4 games last season.
Yeah, but then it was all like, he's way better than Todd Gurley. I don't know. We gotta hope, though, he stays with the Rams, so that way Devin's Todd Gurley won't be as good for fantasy.
I feel like even though CJ is he's like a prototypical bruiser, and Adrian Peterson can also be a bruiser, and he's like a more versatile player even at his age. At least to me that isn't surprising at all.
Okay.
We talked about Earl Thomas. We did.
I mean, like, one thing that I saw was someone was saying that the Ravens, the biggest loss that they have for their defense was the fact that like C.J. Mosley was their leader and was like vocal because they have a lot of disguise concepts and complicated defense that they're running. And they were worried for the Ravens defense losing him, but Earl Thomas was able to step in there and replace that now that he's signed, so that's really good for them. They just need a leader like that.
Yeah, I mean, another leader on that team is Eric Weddle, who I was really surprised that they let go. I guess I wasn't super surprised. This is like I think he's been in the league this would be his 10th year, I'm pretty sure. So he's been around the block for a bit, but he's always one of the players like I've always really respected on the Baltimore team. So really a hard worker. that has never been dirty. I mean, not that there haven't been. Baltimore hasn't had a dirty player problem in like, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years, maybe even longer. It's pretty much just moved to Cincinnati in the AFC North. Even then, they've been getting a little bit better too. Probably most just because of the league rules changing, being harder on it. But I was surprised to see Eric Weddle go. He did say early in the offseason that either he'd re-sign for a year with the Ravens, or he'd be done. And then within days of saying they're not going to sign him, he apparently got on a phone call with Sean McVay, and McVay was very impressed with him and signed him to the Rams. So good for Eric Weddle. Yeah, I'll be rooting for him down in LA for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, it makes sense that if he was contemplating retirement, just do one last year with a definite title contender, at least. Try to get that title.
Yeah, alrighty. Moving on here to our tight end segment. Jared Cook hasn't been signed yet. I think easily the best wide receiver on the market. Or sorry, tight end on the market still. You said Buffalo. I said Green Bay or Buffalo or Homecoming. And so I think he still ended up in Buffalo. But it seems like the more of the narrative circling around him has been New Orleans, which also makes sense to me. Those are just two teams that need tight ends. So, yeah. And then we had Jesse James, talked about him.
Yeah, we did.
Tyrell Williams gets a good contract. I want to look at the numbers real quick. He made a lot of money. He took a lot of money from the Raiders here.
The Raiders. Well, he's that kind of Western Oregon Gruden grinder that they need.
I don't even think I agree with that. So, nothing against like him. I think he's just a very non-versatile player. I think he's an X receiver, and that's about it. So 4 years, $44 million with 22 guaranteed. Jeez, that is so much for such a player who's like good but not great, in my opinion.
I mean, like, I don't know, compared to like how much Sammy Watkins got last season, which seemed like even more. I honestly don't remember. It's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, Sammy Watkins got a lot of money too. I don't know why he got so. Yeah, I think anyways. But yeah, good for Tyrell. He's a good agent. You predicted Arizona. I said Washington or Jets. Yeah, we just kind of the teams in need for wide receivers. Oakland too, I guess, but whatever. He'll be a good X on the other side of the field from AB, so I get it for them. Moving on, we have Golden Tate, formerly of the Lions, then the Eagles, and still no team signed yet. I thought Jets, you thought Patriots. You still feeling good about your prediction, or you're thinking somewhere else?
I'm not feeling too bad because Patriots really still have nobody besides Edelman. They just signed Dorsett, but that's really nothing to be worried about.
Yeah.
But Patriots have a lot of draft picks, so maybe they don't need to sign anybody. How you feeling about Jets?
Oh, I don't know. I kind of just said Jets last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, because I didn't want him to go to the Patriots. I still think that's the most likely landing spot. I'm being less confident about that now. I actually don't know where he fits into like anywhere right now.
The Jets just signed Jamison Crowder, which is pretty similar, so I don't think that they're gonna.
Yeah, I honestly just don't know where Golden Tate fits in the league right now. I'd take him in Pittsburgh.
Maybe like as much as I hate it, Green Bay would make sense. Cause like I don't know if they have any slot receivers.
Ooh, yeah. And is Randall Cobb even gonna play next year? Is he done?
I feel like he's done.
So it could be. I mean, the whole thing, a big thing last season, with Ryan Cobb's a free agent. He's probably not going to resign. A big thing in the narrative last season with Green Bay was that the youth in the receiving core and like Aaron Rodgers in the preseason getting like upset at them for their work ethic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So getting a veteran who can like steer them in the right direction, I think that could be super valuable. Yeah, I think that'd be a good pick, a good spot to fill in. It's 2 revenge games a season. Hype.
Revenge. All we did was love him.
It's true. Moving on here, we got John Brown, Smokey himself. I thought he'd be doing a reunion in Tampa. I guess we could talk about Tampa with Deshaun Jackson going back home to Philadelphia. That's interesting. But still, even with that, I was like, it makes sense. You just go to Tampa. Ends up in Buffalo. Yeah. Sure. Congrats. I don't know.
I mean, the reason I thought this is just because like Josh Allen with his arm and John Brown with his speed, it makes too much sense. And apparently the Bills thought the same way. They now have a ridiculously fast wide receiver core with Zay Jones and Ramon Foster both having like 4 something 40s, maybe even faster. I don't know. I just saw something about it. It's gonna be wild over there in Buffalo.
Yeah. I guess I just would have liked a receiver with slightly more experience, but I guess like John Brown he's been around for a little bit. I mean, he's had Carson Palmer throwing them the ball. He's had both Flacco and Lamar Jackson. So yeah.
But did you saw that the Bills signed Frank Gore to running back, right?
I did, yeah.
So the sum total of their 3 running backs' ages is over like 95 or something like that now. With Shady, Frank Gore, and Chris Ivory.
Is Chris Ivory that old? I didn't think Chris Ivory was that old.
I'm pretty sure he's like 30.
Really? I guess that makes sense. Chris Ivory is 30 on the dot. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I bet he's gonna be 31 in about a week.
Yeah. So that's an interesting dynamic they got going there.
Alrighty. Next up, we have Adam Humphries from Tampa Bay. You said Browns. I said Denver. Ends up with the Titans. I think that fits too. I do think he probably fits in better in Denver. I would still stick with my pick, but I mean I'm not the GM, so.
Did you hear that the Patriots tried to beat the Titans' offer after he had like agreed to it in theory, and then Adam Humphries was all like, "Nope, I made my deal and I'm gonna stick to it."
I did not hear that. That's
yeah,
cool.
It's pretty stand-up move of him. He's no Josh McDaniels or Anthony Barr.
Alrighty, and instead of signing Jamison Crowder, our next receiver, who I thought might have signed to the Titans went for Humphries and ended up going to the Jets, which you predicted. Congrats on that. It's your 5th correct prediction so far. Goodness gracious. I think you convinced me even last time we were talking about this, saying how well he would fit in the Jets offense. And another target for Sam Darnold in his sophomore season, especially someone who I think is very talented and athletic as Jamison Crowder, really good route runner, really good in space. I think it's going to be a dynamic duo. I mean, people even last season were saying that with Alex Smith coming off of his near MVP candidacy season in Kansas City, moving to Washington, people are saying Jamison Crowder is going to be big in fantasy this year. He's going to be a big thing. Obviously, it didn't pan out, but I can see that narrative starting right back up this season with Sam Darnold throwing in the ball.
Yeah, like honestly, I feel like this is Jamison Crowder's best like offensive group he's ever been with, because Redskins have always never really had good wide receivers with Jamison Crowder, besides I guess when Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson were there. I don't know if Jamison was there with them. I think he was.
With Pierre Garçon, yeah.
Yeah, but now with Robbie Anderson and Quincy Enunwa, Le'Veon Bell, like it's something he could actually be like productive with a good offense.
Yeah, for
hopefully.
Sure. Did you have anything else to say about AB to Oakland, or can we move on?
I mean, we'll see how long he goes without complaining about Derek Carr. I have no idea.
Is Antonio Brown a wide receiver 1 this season?
Yeah, I think so.
Is he a top 6 wide receiver?
No. Like, he's just gonna be like DeAndre Hopkins back when they had like wait, was
Brock.
he good? Was
They
he
had,
good with
Brock?
Brock?
No, I mean it was no. His down seasons was with Brian Hoyer and Brock, I think, if I remember correctly.
Okay, well, like he's just gonna be the main target on the offense and like a target hog, but like he's not gonna have enough touchdowns or like I don't know. I don't think he is to.
And in a redraft league, is he a first round pick this season?
Just off the top of my head, Saquon, Odell, Gurley, Hopkins. Probably take Michael Thomas before him.
Yeah.
Maybe. Kamara. I think so. Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, I would say CMC.
Yeah, definitely Christian McCaffrey.
That's 8. Is Tyreek higher?
Yeah. Considering the offense he'd be on.
Yeah, it's 9. It's no Kareem Hunt.
Devontae Adams. I feel like I would take Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I would too. That's safe. Yeah, it's 10.
Anyone else? Oh, David Johnson. And Zeke. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, Zeke. David Johnson though. Yeah.
Oh wait, am I looking at? Oh, I'm looking at 2018 rankings.
Oh.
But still, I feel like with Cliff Kingsbury, David Johnson would probably be beforehand.
I would probably draft. I mean, just running back over wide receiver. Yeah, for me.
Yeah.
Would you draft Julio over him?
Yeah, I think I would.
In a contract year.
Yeah.
So
James Conner.
James Conner over? Wow.
Theoretically. I don't know. He is right now.
Yeah, throw like Joe Mixon up there too. Yeah, I don't know. He's fringe for second round.
Right now on Fantasy Football Calculator, Juju Smith-Schuster is higher than Antonio Brown.
I can see that. I don't know if I agree. I don't know. Steelers offense is going to be so different next year. It's hard to tell, but yeah, he's definitely he's no longer in the conversation of do you draft one of the top 3 running backs or AB? It's
yeah, like last year was always just Antonio Brown is always the top wide receiver, so no harm in drafting him.
Yeah. Alrighty, another top wide receiver, one that I was working out. Was it yesterday? And then I got in the shower, and by the time I got out, all of a sudden Odell was traded to the Browns. What?
Dude, like, all right, we have to talk through what the Giants are doing right now because it makes no sense. I feel like last year they were definitely like, all right, we have this core that we think we can win now with. We have a new coach, so we're gonna just draft to get the best team we can right now and try and win. Which is why they took Saquon Barkley 2nd overall. And then after they suck this year and have like the 6th overall pick in this draft, they're like, oh, never mind, we're just gonna tank and start rebuilding. But they definitely started a year too late, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's actually a report this morning that the Giants are looking to, test the waters and see if young Mr. Josh Rosen might want to take his talents to New Jersey, where they actually play. Yeah, I don't know what that's just a mess. It's weird that at least it's a little bit weird to me that the Giants are the team in New York we don't really understand what they're doing, but the Jets are kind of making sense. A little bit of a role reversal, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's definitely backwards.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Poor Saquon.
Poor Saquon. Yeah. Is Saquon long for the Giants? I mean, they're gonna give him a monster contract that they gave Odell. He's just gonna be there for a long time, probably.
Yeah, I feel like Saquon's the kind of guy that could just last until he's over 30.
Yeah, I think so. Alrighty. Yeah, I guess you would pick, I guess we're just talking about his fantasy value in Cleveland with Baker slinging him the ball now. A little bit of competition. We still have Jarvis Landry there and a couple other younger wide receivers. But for the most part, that receiving core is solidified. And do you think Odell's a first-round pick still this season?
All right. So I read a thing that was about talking about this whole trade, right? Mm-hmm. And that the Browns were Odell's first choice for where he'd want to go if he got traded. Because his best friend is Jarvis Landry. They played together at LSU.
Yep.
And it makes a lot of sense, because what they talked about was how back in LSU, Jarvis Landry was actually always the alpha dog, and he kept Odell hungry to try and compete with him,
Huh.
And since Odell lost that in New York, that's kind of why I started going all diva and off the rails and stuff. But if he's got Jarvis back, then he can just he's always got that person to push him to be the best he can be and try even harder and stuff. And it reminded me of the Hard Knocks conversation that Jarvis had, where he's talking to all the wide receivers that were sitting out plays and stuff, saying it's all contagious.
Yeah.
No one's sitting out with Jarvis Landry and Odell on the field. You have to try as hard as you can if you want to play.
Yeah.
So I think Odell is going to be wild over there.
Yeah, I totally get why just the Frank Nation. Also, if I was a stud wide receiver, I'd love to play for Freddie Kitchens.
Mm-hmm.
And I think John Dorsey's a stand-up guy from what I can tell for the most part. And they've gone in a lot of toxic members out of that faculty over the past couple seasons. So I think the Browns it's no longer a place, and with the turnaround this last season, winning they won like 7 games or something, which is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. The stink of like players go to Cleveland to end their careers pretty much, and that's done, and we have a perennial contender in the AFC North for at least the next while, for as long as Baker can continue to play up to his expectations, and it could be games I'm actually looking forward to watching, because I never look forward to watching Steelers versus Browns, because it's always just like, are we gonna screw this up? No. And if we win, it's like I'm not even that happy, because it's like, I guess we won against the Browns. Wow, congrats to us. But now it'll be an actual game, so that's cool.
Yeah, did you see that the Browns now have the best Super Bowl odds that they've had since Bill Belichick was their coach?
Yeah, I did not see that, but I believe it. I mean, it makes sense to me. Like,
yeah, and I don't think they've had like a Sunday night football game since something like 2008.
Wow,
So, like,
really?
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna change.
Yeah, that's definitely changing this season. Oh my god.
Alrighty. Do we have any other players to talk about? I guess, do we talk about Blake Bortles? Losing Blake Bortles in Jacksonville. You think he's gonna end up in New England?
Yeah. It makes too much sense. He's gonna go there, become awesome, and then just become the new Tom Brady, and we'll all love him because he's just ripping cigs and working construction.
I don't understand from New England's perspective why they would sign him. I don't
Yeah,
really know why
that's
any
fair.
team would sign him, especially because like one of the things I remember there was a narrative last season that they like couldn't bring in other quarterbacks to compete with him because like it would like bruise his ego too much. So I don't know if he has the ego to be a backup somewhere. I don't know where Blake lands. I was reading like different thought pieces about Blake, different reports, and they're like, oh, he'll easily find a landing spot somewhere. And I'm just like, yeah, everyone's just says like, oh, he'll find a landing spot, but nobody's actually saying where. Just another player. I don't get where he lands in the league right now. Like I don't know where his role is.
Are you thinking AAF legend Blake Bortles?
That'd be hype. XFL legend.
Man
Yeah,
of people.
I wouldn't hate that decision. Like, I mean, he's still young. I mean, what? He's been in the league for what, like 5 years now, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
I wouldn't hate, doing a Kurt Warner and going to play somewhere else, boosting up his confidence and also his abilities, and then coming back. I mean, I wouldn't hate that.
I don't think we've seen the last of it.
Yeah. Already, I think we've been going on for long enough.
Mm-hmm. You see the new Avengers Endgame trailer this morning, Frankie?
No, I haven't.
Did you see that it dropped?
I did see that it dropped. I don't watch trailers. You know that.
None of the trailers really spoiled anything.
Well, yeah. If they did, like, there's no reason to. Like, why would they spoil anything?
Yeah, literally anyone that considers seeing it is gonna see it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the new poster with Captain Marvel in it, but that's all I've seen. Anyways,
Okay,
did you want to talk about the trailer?
No, not really.
Okay.
I was just asking.
Thank you all for listening to another episode of the A1 by Cam Offseason Podcast. I've been Frankie.
I'm Cam.
And we will catch you all next week with maybe more free agency talk, maybe not. We'll see what happens this week.
Peace. Wait, we'll be together next week.
Will we?
Spring break.
Oh, snap. Catch you all next week. Goodbye.